Well, thank you everyone for coming. We really appreciate you joining us this evening. I'm very, very excited. As you can see, myself and Simon are joined by three of our past climbers who are going to take you through some of their favourite kind of memories and also their Kili experiences. So just in terms of housekeeping, we are recording this session, so if you don't want your face to appear at all, just keep your camera off and you'll just appear as like a little box. If you do have any questions throughout the session, feel free to pop them in the chat box to myself or Simon, and we will then ask them throughout. And if they're going to be covered, then we'll kind of run it through to that point. Or if there's any particular questions you want to ask face to face, feel free to you can raise your hand using the bar at the bottom, and then we'll come to you next. So to start with, hopefully everyone knows who I am by now, but I am kind of working with all of you and all of your teams up and down the country. You should all know who Simon is as well, but I'll let our guests introduce themselves. So if we start with Dan.
Hi, yeah, I'm Dan. I did the in 2019 and I was a team leader at the University of Birmingham. This was my first big fundraising challenge. But I'd done like smaller ones beforehand. But yeah, this was definitely the largest one that I'd done. And while I haven't done any fundraising since then, I've signed up to be a regular contributor and donator for Dig Deep since I did the challenge. So that's been my contribution while I haven't done any big fundraising.
Amazing, thank you, Dan. Dan has also helped us out in loads of other ways as well. For example, coming along to this, doing things like our blog. So we really appreciate you coming back tonight as well. If we go to Vicky next.
Hi, I'm Vicky. I climbed Kili in 2015 while I was at the University of Chester, and I literally found out today, it's exactly 6 years ago today that we set off on our climb, which is pretty mad. It was my first big fundraising challenge that I've done. I've gone on to do quite a few various different fundraisers for other charities, and most recently doing the kilometres for Kili challenge. So yeah.
Amazing. What a way to celebrate your anniversary, coming back. That's great.
Well, I can't believe it.
I know, we love it when coincidences work out. And then last but not least, Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah. So I worked for Dig Deep for 2 years between 2015 and 2017. So I climbed Kili and Mount Kenya with Dig Deep during that time. I got involved because I did a lot of fundraising with Sheffield Rag, and at the time the Dig Deep office was in Sheffield, so I kind of got connected through them. So I did a lot of fundraising whilst I was at university on various rag events, and since then I've worked as a challenge fundraiser for a few different charities, so kind of worked in that area a little bit, and I love a challenge event, so I've done a few like marathons and half marathons, but yeah, I think they're great. Always up for the next one.
Lovely, thank you, Sarah. And it's very nice to have Sarah back. She was my fundraising support officer when I climbed, so she passed the baton over, which is great. So obviously the title of this session is Memories from the Mountain, but as most of you all know who are on this call, before you get to the mountain, you do have to conquer a few other sort of challenges in the form of fundraising. So I think we've had a few questions in that would be nice to ask you guys to get started, but Adam asked, how did each of you personally fundraise to get to your target? So what was like your main method that you focused your fundraising efforts on? So if we start with Vicky, if that's all right.
Yeah, so I relied on my online giving platform a lot. I shared that with all my friends and family all over Facebook, and they shared it with all of their friends. So I managed to get a good chunk of my fundraising done on that, and then relied on one big event. So I held a race night. So I knew somebody who could hire a room out for free under their name for me. So that cut out a cost there. I was able to use the venue, got in touch with loads of local businesses to hold a raffle on the night. So I was able to get a letter to prove what I was fundraising for, what these gifts were for. was able to get a donation of a family 4 ticket to a Doncaster Rovers match, which definitely helped with the raffle. So had the race night, held this big raffle on it, and raised over £500, I think, on that event, which took me £100 off of my target. And on the night, I'd like calculated it all up, said it, and one guy there was like, okay, here's £100, now you're at your target. So yeah.
Amazing. People are so generous. I do think like just being able to talk to people, really, like you'll get odd people like that who are ever so generous, who will like make up that difference. But I mean, we love a raffle at any event as well. I would advise everyone to add a raffle to any event, whatever they're doing. But that's great.
100%. It must have added at least £100 to the total of the night. It probably was more like 2, to be fair.
Yeah, it's amazing, especially when you can get like prizes like the tickets donated as well. It's so worthwhile just asking, isn't it? Like, it's amazing what you can come back with. That's brilliant. Thank you, Vicky. And then Dan, what was your main focus for your fundraising?
Kind of similarly, I did like a few small things like along the way to kind of supplement things. So like I did like the Birmingham 10K and like a few small events like that. But my main focus was on kind of the bigger organised events. So I did pub quizzes. I did quite a few of them. The most successful one we did was a Harry Potter themed pub quiz. With all the students, because luckily we had like a really good event space. There was a pub like just on the high street where all the students live in Birmingham, so I definitely look out for like places like that everyone knows, and there's people that are very accommodating to charity events and are really super helpful with that kind of stuff. So we hosted that, and also did a raffle, and again, like Vicky said, just like message people for random things to donate to win prizes, because we ended up getting £400 worth of official Harry Potter collectible wands to give away just by emailing this random company. So we raised about 700 quid from that event, just on its by itself. So, and you get to have fun hosting the night as well, which is good fun. So yeah, that was the main thing that I did.
Brilliant, amazing. Yeah, I think it is incredible when you just ask the question. Like, the worst thing that's going to happen is someone say no, they can't donate a raffle prize, but then you get all of those wands, collector's wands, to like donated instead. So it's brilliant what you can kind of end up with. And I think as well, like you said about like quiz nights, whenever you add like a competitive element into it, people really go hard into fundraising events. So that's always a good element. So is there anything, obviously those things that you explained, guys, are amazing, but is there anything that you saw maybe other people do that was successful that maybe you'd want to incorporate into your own fundraising if you were to do it again? I mean, Sarah, was there anything in particular that you saw fundraisers doing when you were working as like the challenge officer?
Yeah, I think the main thing that worked for people, well, one of the things I always suggested people did was they just wrote down a list of everyone they knew and what like hobbies that person had, and then just like made it an event, because I think everyone like kind of loves an excuse to get involved. So if you like know someone who can like do an hour of yoga and they can teach like a yoga class, or you know someone that could organize like a 5-a-side football tournament, like you just kind of instantly like increase your ability to do different kinds of events, because it is quite a challenge raising that amount of money. So the variety of events I think really helps people out. So I think that was when people were really successful, is when they really kind of got their friends and family on board and organized like lots of different events throughout the year, and it kind of takes the pressure off you being like, okay, well, I can do a bake sale, then you do like 10 bake sales and you're like, okay, I'm not quite getting there. So I think a variety of events and asking lots of people was a really good way forward. But yeah, I think the most successful events I saw were things that were people's kind of like passions or people's hobbies. I remember one person did like a photography exhibition because she really wanted to be a photographer, and then she kind of charged people entry because, I don't know, that was just really interesting for people as well. And then you can definitely, you know, put the ticket up a little bit more because it's a charity. So I think when people use their hobbies, that was always really successful.
Yeah, definitely. I'm always very envious of anyone who has like a real talent that they can use for fundraising. Like we've been really fortunate to see over the last year some really creative things, especially with the lockdown and the restrictions, people having time to make beautiful products to sell as well, which I mean I think Simon and I have a fair amount of them in our own houses as well, which is great. But yeah, how before we kind of move on a little bit more, how did it feel after all of that hard work with your fundraising? How did it actually feel when you reached that minimum fundraising target and kind of secured your place on the trip? And once you'd hit that final deadline, Dan, do you want to go with that one?
Yeah, that's just a really exciting moment because it's at least a year of hard work, especially for a lot of the guys that might have had their challenges delayed. It might be even longer that you've been working towards this. A lot of effort goes into it. And I know, like for myself as well, I decided to do this in my third year of university. So doing it alongside final exams and applying for jobs and stuff. So like when you get that email through that says, congratulations that you've made it, you're going on the trip, is like, yeah, a lot of relief, but excitement because now you're just getting ready. Then you can think about like preparing for the trip and stuff. So yeah, an amazing feeling. And then everyone else comes around the same time, finishes it up. So that's when you start to get the real buzz for going on the trip. I think once you all hit that target.
Yeah, it's just like that. You can breathe in, can't you? And then, like you say, really start prepping for the actual challenge, which leads us quite conveniently on to our next question. So Agatha, who couldn't make the session tonight, sent over a couple of questions. But her first one would be, what would you say was the most important item to remember for the actual climb? So what you felt was the most important thing to take with you for the mountain. So Vicky, do you have a particular item that you wouldn't have been without on the mountain?
Obviously, like you've got all your basic stuff of like your rucksack and your shoes. Definitely get some shoes and bed them in. Do not get brand new shoes for the hike without checking them in, because I know too many people who had the most horrendous blisters. Do not do that ever. But I think like just something that's a little personal item that reminds you of home a little bit, something special, like nothing big or heavy, just something that's a nice little memory and that you can take to the top and get a picture with it at the top that you wouldn't always have otherwise. And a few people who took like little teddies that like family members had given as a good luck present, and when they got to the top they were like, yay, it's from me luck, and got that photo. And yeah, just something that's a bit sentimental that you can then carry with you, but it's not extra weight, it's super light.
Brilliant, amazing, thank you. Sarah, any item that you think people should definitely take with them on the climb?
I think a pair of walking boots that you've practiced walking in is probably my number one for any trek, because you think they'll be fine and then like day 2 you've got horrible blisters. So always try and wear them on like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 kind of like couple of hour hikes just before you go, so they work. Because I think, well, the blisters that we saw sometimes were bad. So just wear them around the house, like just wear them to the shops for like a couple of weeks just so that they're worn in and your feet are used to them. Yeah, more practical answer than Vicky's. I also agree with Vicky on that front, but I just thought I'd give the flip side.
I mean, you've got to have a bit of both, haven't you? You've got to balance it out. Dan, was there anything in particular that you would advise people take with them on the challenge?
I'd say probably the one thing that stands out to me is I rented the walking poles when we were out there. So I didn't buy them myself, but I used them, and they were a godsend. It was, especially for the descent, like for on your knees, it helps a lot. So that was probably, I think, the most useful bit of kit that I think I used when we were there.
I would definitely back that up as well. So when I did it the first time, I didn't take walking poles, and I did it again 5 years later and took walking poles. And I think being 5 years older and having walking poles, I would have struggled significantly more. So yeah, definitely recommend getting some walking poles or hire one when you're out there. And I'd also say either like a solar panel or like a battery pack to sort of charge your mobile, charge your camera batteries, that kind of thing is definitely an essential item as well if you want to get some good photos. So.
Yeah, I took the largest battery you're allowed to carry on a plane over to me so that I could charge everything.
So just in the chat, Freya has just asked, why are the walking poles so good? What do you use them for? So Simon, do you want to, as soon as you
Yeah.
relied on them so heavily?
So like Dan said, it's definitely more for the descent. But particularly when you're coming down from the summit, you're walking on like a very loose gravel, and having that extra support to sort of keep yourself balanced. I remember walking down without walking poles, and I was literally just sliding down half the time on my bum because I couldn't stand up. So yeah, having that extra support, particularly on this descent, really sort of helps your knees and keeps you balanced. But even on the way up as well, it's good to just get in a rhythm, and you can sort of get in the zone with your walking poles as well. So it sort of helps both ways, but definitely for the descent.
Thank you. I've got to say, going up, I needed them as well. I think my memory was weak both ways, but I found them really helpful on summit night because it's obviously really dark and you've got to feel your way along as well. So they are definitely a good all-round product to take with you. So just to kind of round up this section, is there anything that you guys took with you on the challenge that you kind of think you didn't need to take with you? Maybe something you over prepared with, or just something that was unnecessary weight? I don't know if anyone, if you, Dan or Sarah, if any of you can answer for that.
Yeah, I just took way too many clothes. I think I took like a t-shirt for every day, and like you just don't need that. Like you just don't care. Like I think I wore the same thing to walk in. This is probably a bit gross. I think I did the same thing. I wore the same thing to walk in and sleep in every day, because you don't care if things are like a bit smelly anyway. And also you figure out what works, and you're like, well, that was comfy, so I want to wear that again.
It's so
like,
cold as well. You don't want to take clothes off.
Exactly. Yeah, like you definitely don't need 6 t-shirts. I just really remember getting down from the mountain and being like ashamed at how many clean clothes I had in my backpack still that I hadn't worn.
I don't think I took anything that I didn't actually need, but one of the girls on my climb took way too much food, like way too many snacks. I remember we were in the lodge, like prepping our bags ready to go the next day, and I was looking at all of the snacks and I was like, why do you have them? She was like, 'cause I need them. I was like, no, trust me, you don't. I was like, that is going to be so heavy for yourself and your porter, like you don't need them. And she weighed it and it was like 10 times heavier than it needed to be, so she had to leave them all. So definitely take snacks for energy, but just think, how much do you snack on a normal day? Don't take more than that, because you really don't need it. You get incredible food on the mountain that really does fuel you, so it's just a bit of a sugary snack for if you're having a lull where you feel a bit tired. So definitely, yeah, don't overpack food because it's really not necessary.
I think I ended up resorting, because I definitely could have been that person overpacking on food. I was like, I'm gonna have to take like a cool bag and everything, but I think I resorted to things like sherbet lemons and stuff like that, because I could easily fit that in around the stuff I actually had to take. That's great then. So Simon, do you want to move on?
Yeah, I think we've kind of already merged into the challenge itself anyway.
Yeah.
So we've now prepared, we've hit the fundraising side, we've prepared all sort of the stuff that we need, and now we're sort of on the challenge itself. Lizzie has sent in a question. She's asked, I've joined the challenge by myself and haven't managed to meet my teammates yet for obvious reasons. So did you guys know people before you went, or did you just make friends when you were there? Does anyone want to sort of start with that? Or maybe Dan?
Yeah, so I did know a few of the people that I went with, because as a team leader, I was recruiting people. So I pestered quite a lot of my friends that I already knew to come and join me and do it. Some of them did, some of them dropped out. But yeah, but there were definitely a lot of people that we went with that didn't know anyone on the climb, and even just like acquaintances. But it's definitely something that I wouldn't worry about at all. Like, you're all in such a different environment, and like everyone's in the same boat as you are. Like, everyone's a bit nervous, everyone's excited. You get to know people so quickly, and I think one of the best things about the whole trip is that you get to spend so much time just talking to people on the days, just as you're going along, and you get to know people really, really well. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about not knowing anyone.
Vicky, anything to add at all? Or Sarah? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I feel like I've like been on a lot of challenge events and like overseen a lot of challenge events as well, and a lot of people that don't know anyone or like do know people. But I just think that after like day one, even being on that challenge together, all you're doing is like talking about the challenge, and like everyone really relaxes into it, and you just kind of become this team like straight away, even if there was a challenge that had like a really close group of friends on, they would like break up and they'd all kind of become a team. So yeah, I would really not worry about that at all. Like there's something about walking as well that people just like get chatting about like all sorts and everything. I don't know what it does to people, but everyone just really like relaxes on day one and, you know, is like best friends by the end of the day, which sounds like it's, you know, a bit silly, but it really does happen with every group. They all come back down like as best friends.
Yeah, there's definitely no barriers put up when you're sort of on the mountain. You go through
Yeah.
there together. It's all those completely disappear and you become oversharers for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely.
But is there anything that sticks out in your mind from that sort of first day of climbing? So obviously you sort of eased into it in the rainforest and stuff. Is there anything that sort of sticks out as when you sort of first start going and major memories from that first day? Anybody? Vicky, maybe?
Yeah, I'll go. I remember literally setting off and being so excited, like the hard work you've put in over the year, and like for the people who are still waiting for their challenge, like honestly, that feeling when you first set off is so incredible. You've had some food, you're really excited, everyone's really hyped, you set off, and it's like nothing else. Like it's really hard to describe how incredible it truly is. And I remember literally we were walking at one point and you could just hear the monkeys in the trees. So we were all like trying to find them. I didn't find them, but somebody did. So I was gutted because I was like, I want to see these monkeys. But that really does stick out in my mind. Like there's literally monkeys there and you're just walking through and then you carry on and suddenly you're above the clouds and you're like, okay, this is awesome. Like it's so hard to explain how incredible that feeling is, but yeah.
It is surprising how quickly you get above the crowds as well. So I remember that feeling as well when you suddenly you exit the trees and all of a sudden you look back and you're like, oh wow, like, where am I now? How did I get here?
Yeah, you're like, I'm so high up, like what?
Exactly. And obviously you get to camp and Jamie wants to know, how did you find sleeping in a tent on the mountain each night?
Okay. Oh, do you want to go? Okay.
I don't. Sorry, you go.
I just say I loved it. Like I thought it was just great fun. One of the things that really sticks out in my memory on Kili is like the temperature change, and I don't know. I just found that really cool. You do wake up and it's like it's cold because the sun hasn't fully come up yet. You're waking up quite early, so you kind of put all your layers on, and then like half an hour later it's like hot and sunny. So yeah, I remember waking up and being like quite cold most mornings. But then they bring you around. Did they still do this? They bring you around the hot water. Is that still a thing? So they're like these like porters. You're like in bed or snuggled up, and they like bring you hot water if you to like warm yourself up, and you like wash your hands and your face. And it's just like, I don't know. I thought it was like a really nice start to the day. And like the further along you go, the more beautiful like your mornings will get. And I just remember, and still to this day, like I've never woken up to a more beautiful view than some of those mornings. So yeah, I just think it's great. You like unzip your tent and then you've got this insane view over Tanzania. Like, I don't know, I can't think of anything much better than that, really.
I mean, Dan, as well, you took you got some amazing photos of the night sky and sort of the stars in the sky. Absolutely incredible at that point, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I decided stupidly, but it paid off in the end. I think on the fourth night, so like we'd done a fair amount of climbing, but we were pretty high up, so I wanted to get some really good photos of the stars. So got up at about 3 o'clock in the morning while everyone was asleep resting for the next day of climbing, and I was there for like an hour taking pictures, and then had to crawl back into my tent really quietly to not wake anyone up. But it was definitely worth it.
For sure, you have to make the most of it. We have some incredible photos from people on the climb. So yeah, if anyone are keen photographers, then definitely sort of take a decent camera with you. Even to be fair, the iPhone now does an amazing job, so you really need a good camera. Yeah. So obviously then you reach base camp. Let's sort of crack on through the climb now, and you're sort of heading towards the summit. So on day 4, you sort of wake up in the early hours of the morning to head to the summit, obviously in darkness. Who wants to sort of take us through what that feels like when you sort of get up in the middle of the night and sort of start walking in pitch black?
Yeah, I think it's similar to like that nervous, excited energy of like the first day, But I think for me that was even more intense because like it feels like this is it, like this is, yeah, because it's summit night. Yeah, there's just like a quiet buzz. Everyone's obviously quite weary, but also just like so awake. Like a lot of people, I didn't really sleep that well because you're just really excited for it, but you don't sleep for that long anyway. But yeah, just the nervous energy was amazing. But everyone is just like encouraging each other so much. And to get that final, it is probably the hardest bit of the climb, that summit night. But everyone getting each other up is like an amazing feeling. Yeah, it's really cool.
Sarah, anything to add there?
Yeah, I just remember like a lot of emotion all round, and I think this is when the team like really came together. So at the time that I climbed Kilimanjaro, I was working, so I climbed with my manager Joe Black at the time, and I remember like her like crying on me, and I was like crying on her, and all sort of like work boundaries had like gone out the window. And I guess there was also that dynamic with our team as well, in that we worked with Dig Deep, but by that point like we were crying on everyone else. And I just remember that was when the team like really came together. And yeah, I agree with Dan, you kind of like, you're like, hey, we've done the first bit, this is now like the push on. But yeah, it's so beautiful that night because you see the sun, you start before sunrise, so you start in the dark and you can see all the head torches like going up the path ahead of you, and they look like tiny little ants, and then suddenly like you're where the tiny little ants are, and you're like, oh my god, I've come this far. And then like the sun starts to come up, and it's so clear. The sunrise is amazing.
And having the sunrise from below where you're standing as well.
Yeah.
Like it looks like it comes up from lower than you are, which is a really surreal feeling.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that moment's definitely something that sticks out with me. And the temperature change as well just gives you a massive boost, I think, because obviously up to that point it's absolutely freezing, and then surprisingly when the sun comes up, you just get that boost of I can see where I am now, and it's a little bit warmer, and so it gives that boost to get to the top, doesn't it? So had one other question in the chat from Jasmine. It probably makes sense to ask this now. So she said, did any of you get altitude sickness?
Luckily, I was generally okay. I took tablets with me. I think some people recommend try from earlier days, which I had. And for me, I think because the symptoms of altitude sickness can be similar to the side effects of the tablets, annoyingly. So I think I got a bit of that. So I decided to just not try them. But it's so different for everyone. So it might be different for you. But yeah, there's definitely a bit of it. And something else is probably the worst. But I think the excitement and everyone getting each other through it overcomes that. Like there was definitely people that were struggling with it a lot more than me, but because that feeling of everyone wants to get the whole team up to the top, they won't let you not fail. And like if you do feel quite rough, you know that it will be better once you get down. So you just have to push through and get down. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about it too much.
It's that moment, everyone's in it together at that point, aren't they? So kind of helping each other along. And yeah, some people will struggle more than others. It's kind of natural. It's just one of those physical things that you don't know how it's going to be until you sort of get on the mountain itself. But the crew are amazing at sort of helping you through it and telling you sort of what to do to try and help the symptoms and sort of support you that way. Sarah, you have to?
Just, I think the main advice is just to keep drinking really like regularly and eating regularly. So when Harry was talking about like having like the sweets, that's really good for just keeping like your sugar levels up. And yeah, when Vicky, when you were like that girl bought loads of snacks, I was like, oh great, because I always told people to take far too many snacks, because if you keep eating, your body is in a much better shape to like keep going at the altitude. I always get like a horrible headache altitude for the whole time, but you do just kind of get used to it. I think like you do adjust, and some people I find it really hard to sleep at altitude, but it's all part of the challenge. You have to.
Exactly, that's the thing that I struggled with, is that tiredness from just not sleeping very well, and that like you say is one of the sort of symptoms of altitude. But I always say the feelings of altitude are kind of the mixture between feeling drunk and hungover at the same time. It's kind of that weird dynamic.
There are like positives to altitude, like some people, like I remember like everyone going really hyper sometimes as well. It goes both ways.
It worked that way for me. Whereas I'm quite a lethargic person normally, I kind of got to altitude and I was like, I've got these whole new levels of energy. Like, I don't know where this has come from. But like you said, Sarah, it's a lot of the time it's if you're not eating and drinking. So I got a really bad headache actually on the acclimatization day. So when you're going up to Lava Tower, and my guide said to me, "You've not had a drink in ages," and I was like, "Well, no, I haven't." And then had a sit down, and actually you can sometimes like reduce the effects like that as well. So I think
the tubes that you can drink through are great because you can just drink small amounts really regularly.
Definitely.
That's definitely one of the things you should definitely get is one of those camel packs. You can hire them there as well, but most sort of, if you get off a backpack, some of them do actually come with it in it anyway. So yeah, definitely something that you should take with you if you haven't thought about that already. Okay, so on the way to the summit then, like Sarah's already touched on it before, but yeah, the sun will rise on the way, and like I said, it gives you one of those moments that you'll definitely remember forever. But what was that moment like when you finally reached the sign? So you've reached the summit of Kili. Vicky, do you want to sort of talk about that moment?
Oh my gosh, it is honestly the most incredible feeling. Everything you've just worked so hard for, you've achieved. Like, so many people have supported you on your journey, and now you can actually tell them you've made it to the top, you've got the photo evidence. Literally, one of me and my friends, we literally were just hugging because we were like, we can't believe we've actually made it. Like, we are here, like, look at this view, this is insane. Like, you generally do feel like you're on top of the world. Like, there's nothing else, it's just the sky, the mountain, and yourself. Like, it really is absolutely incredible. Like, yeah.
It's pretty hard to describe, isn't it? But yeah. We're going to ask each of you to do it because I think that's something that you want to sort of get across how it feels. So Sarah, how was it for you?
Yeah, I mean, I have more tears, I think, from our team. We were an emotional team, in a good way. And yeah, it was really lovely. Like, everyone was kind of having their little moment and, you know, reflecting on everything. And like, yeah, I just remember just like after all the like anxiety of like, am I going to make it? Like, just having a sit down, and I think I'd saved like my favorite snack for the top as well, which I'd really advise, and just like sat down and like, yeah, just enjoyed the top, like just relaxed and was like, I've done it. And that was a really satisfying feeling. Yeah, it's great. And that final, like, I don't know, like 45-minute slog where it's not steep, it's just like really, really gradual.
You can see it in the distance.
You can see it.
Slightly bigger.
I think that's like a cruel finish to a mountain because you're just like, I'm so close. But yeah, it's all worth it. Keep pushing.
And Dan, finally, finish it off. What was it like?
Yeah, definitely. I think, like Sarah says, you know, the bit where you get up to Stellar Point, which is like the steepest bit of that climb on the summit night, felt like the hardest physical bit. But then that last bit around the crater takes a long time. But then once everyone got there, I just remember, I can't remember who I looked at, but there were a few of us, everyone just turned around. No one really said anything, but everyone just started crying. Like, no one needed to say anything. It was just like happy tears, but everyone was like, you didn't need to say anything, and everyone just hugged. And it was amazing. Yeah, kind of indescribable, really. I did also I took up a beer with me to open and have at the top. But I felt so altitude sick by that point, and so the beer, think of anything worse at that moment, so I just posed with the bottle instead. But people got some good photos. But yeah, just enjoying that while you're at the top is, yeah, amazing, and you probably will cry.
Sorry, Harry, can you take? I think my dog's about to start barking again.
That's absolutely fine. We can make exceptions for Jeffrey. So yeah, that's great, guys. Thank you for sharing your kind of summit experiences. We did have another question from Agatha, who wanted to, I know we've spoken a little bit about altitude sickness, but someone wanted to know, what did you find the hardest bit on the actual expedition? Was there anything in particular that you found difficult? Do any of you guys have a point for that?
I do. So my hardest bit, I would say, was that first part of summit night. I personally really didn't have much sleep. One of my friends was panicking about it, worried she wouldn't make it to the top. So we were laid in bed and I was literally like hyping her up for it. So I didn't get as much sleep. So I was really tired, and I think the fact that it was pitch black and I couldn't see where I was going massively helped. At one point I did look up and did think some headlights were stars, so that also didn't help. But yeah, that first bit I did find really difficult, but as soon as that sun came out, it was like it had sobered me up. I think that was the time that I suffered slightly with altitude sickness. I'd been really lucky, and I just felt like I was a little bit drunk, a little bit happy, and then the sun came up and I was like, boom, I'm sober, let's go, let's keep going, we need to get to the top, we're so close. So yeah, I think because I was tired, that bit was most difficult for me.
Yeah, that it's just that, like Simon mentioned, it's that combination of everything at that point, isn't it? You're tired, it's the coldest it's probably been when you've been climbing, you've been a hype man for someone else, and you kind of need that yourself. But I think that's the point for me, which like the guides and stuff came in and really like boosted my morale to get up. But yeah, I completely agree, it's such a...
And we got chocolate for breakfast as well, which also helped.
Yeah, I mean, there's no better time, is there, for chocolate for breakfast. Sarah or Dan, did you have any particularly hard part of the expedition?
I think for me, I remember nothing that I found like hard, but it is quite tiring coming down, like because you've had this big like high of reaching the top, and then kind of like all your adrenaline like kind of goes away. So I remember coming down I found it very tiring, but then I also remember the further down you get, the more like view you get back at the top. And then is it Millennium Camp is the camp I think you stay at the night after your summit night, and I remember like all of us sat around like looking at the summit, having all just been on the summit, and that was great. So yeah, I think one thing to remember on the mountain is like with every like low that you have, there'll be a high to like balance it out, like absolutely guaranteed. And that's what makes the experience, is like the highs and lows.
Definitely. Okay, so that actually, Sarah, that leads on quite nicely to our kind of descent part of the chat. So obviously when you are descending, it's that reflection period, and then when you get to the bottom, you have kind of like a celebration with your guides and all of your porters, a chance to thank your teams, and you have your tipping ceremony and everything like that. So like obviously it goes without saying the guides are absolutely amazing, all of the crew are on Kili, but what was it like to kind of celebrate with them at that point and reflect on what you've just been doing? Dan, can we start with you if that's all right?
Yeah, I think when you finally reach that final gate, there's such a buzz. Everyone is so happy to have finished and proud of everyone and just so excited. Everyone, you can get a beer, so that's also an amazing at the end, which does quite a lot because of the altitude down there. So everyone's in such an amazing mood, and the tipping ceremony is just amazing. The porters and all the guys, everything have such amazing energy and get everyone dancing and singing with them, and being able to hand out the tips to people yourself individually feels so nice, to all these people that have been supporting the whole way up to give something that means a lot to them, and also because I don't know if you guys mentioned that before, but like the Porters Association making sure they're actually paid like really well, and like so that's a really nice rewarding feeling as well, knowing that that's doing a lot, helping them out a lot. But yeah, the energy is just amazing. The videos we have of everyone dancing at the end are just some of the best. They're just, oh yeah, I don't know how to quite describe them, but incredible feeling.
Yeah, it's just one of those really like heartwarming moments, isn't it, of like, we've done this and now we can thank these people who actually got us there. So that's great. Vicky, how did you find that after your kind of summit and everything, then getting back down?
For me, I think that was probably the most emotional day. Like, these porters are honestly the most incredible, strongest human beings. Like, one of our guides had, I think our climb was like his 220th climb up Kili or something, and I just couldn't believe it. And knowing like that we were doing it the correct way and they were getting paid fairly, and at the end we were celebrating that. We were celebrating not just our achievement but their achievement as well. They got us there, they kept us safe. We had a couple of people who did suffer with altitude sickness, and they looked after them, they brought them down at the right time so that they were safe. So So being able to celebrate and having that sing and that dance, and literally just thinking about it again, I've got goosebumps because I can just hear it in my head and I can just picture it. Like, it feels like it was just yesterday. It's such a difficult emotion to describe, because it is, like Dan said, like being able to have a beer, you've just done such an incredible thing and you're celebrating with a beer with your guides. And that was definitely the most emotional day for me.
Yeah. And then Sarah, it would be interesting to hear from you. Obviously you supported people throughout the year and then got to see them celebrate with their climb teams as well. How was that?
Yeah, I think one thing people absolutely love is like the singing and the dancing. I saw like so many teams would just want to like show their appreciation by joining in with like the singing and the dancing, and like every time those teams, the porters and the guides teams, finish a climb, they bring like the same excitement at the tipping ceremony, which is like a really big testament to them, that they like feel so passionately about the mountain and getting people up and down safely. And yeah, I just remember them having so much energy and everyone's like broken and it really is something. Yeah,
it does make you feel like it's an amazing experience, but I just kept thinking, I was like, how have they got so much energy? I was there like, I need to lay down, but like still managed to have a dance.
Yeah, they're like bringing you beers and everything and you're like, oh God, please put me to shame.
And then they go straight back up again. Like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's great. You guys celebrate. I'm just going to go for another team over there. So they're just incredible.
No, they really are. They're just an amazing group of people, and they definitely are the like reason that you get to the summit. I think they encourage you on so much on the routes. But yeah, to kind of round up our challenge section, apart from like reaching the summit or like the tipping ceremony or anything like that, do you have a favourite kind of personal memory from being on the mountain? Vicky, are you all right to share your favourite memory?
Yeah, my favourite memory, I feel like it should be being at the summit, but it's actually from the very first night. There was a group of us, and it sounds really silly, but everyone was going to the toilet for the first time and realising the toilet situation. So we were talking about that, and literally all just looked up at the same time and saw the stars. And obviously you see the stars in the sky all the time, but they're so different. They're so bright. There's no pollution drowning them out. It's literally, that is one thing that I will never forget, is just looking up and just seeing so many stars above me. And I just felt so incredibly grateful that I was there and that I'd actually managed to meet my target. And I was with such a wonderful group of people and we were sharing this experience together.
Yeah, it is amazing. I think it's sort of like a shock moment that first night as well. You're like, oh wow, I'm actually here and this is happening. But that's great. Dan, a favourite memory from the mountain?
Yeah, I think probably it's like the meal times and like the downtime at camps are some of the best, like just having chats, playing cards, and getting to know people more. And like after a hard day's work, sitting down, and I'll treasure lots of those memories. But I think especially on, is it the second or third night? But there's a campsite where you sort of look out over, you can see another mountain in the distance, and it just like there's all these clouds below you, and everyone just took their food outside to just like stare at this like amazing view and just like share that moment together. And yeah, so that's an amazing memory. Yeah.
Brilliant, amazing, thank you. And Sarah, a favourite memory?
Oh, there's so many, obviously. But I just really loved going to Lava Tower on day 4. Is it day 4? Just testing my memory now. Because that's you're meant to like acclimatise at Lava Tower, so you rest there for a few hours. And because it's the highest point you've been to so far, and then you kind of go down again. And I just remember we were all really tired when we got there, and then we had some lunch and everyone just like got this big burst of energy and everyone was like just singing and like being really silly. And similar to what Dan said, like it's almost like the downtime when you kind of are resting and all chatting. Yeah, I don't know what happened at Lava Tower, but we just Just suddenly you're like,
but it's something that sticks in your mind. No,
yeah.
it is one of those moments because I think it's quite a push to get to Lava Tower as well, and then once
Yeah.
you're there and you
Yeah.
have a chance to relax. No, I completely agree with you on that. Thank you. Amazing. I will hand back to Simon.
Yeah. So I think we've covered the mountain, but obviously that isn't the end of the experience for most people. The suppliers organise these extended travel packages. So you've got safari in Zanzibar. Did any of you guys do those? And if you did, sort of, is there anything you particularly recommend that you sort of did yourself, or you sort of wished you'd done when you're out there? So go to Dan first.
Yeah, so I did the extension trip out to Zanzibar and did safari as well. So I'd never been to anywhere in Africa before, not done safari, so I thought I had to do the safari, which was an amazing. That was so incredible. I took out my camera, like Simon was saying earlier, and got some amazing photographs, and actually ended up selling some of company we were with, because we got so lucky with seeing leopards on both days, which apparently is rare just to see one at all, but we saw a leopard with a big group of elephants that were kind of chasing it and herding it, and I got a picture of that, and the tour guide was like, wow, that's incredible, I haven't seen like a leopard near elephants in like 5 years. Can we have that photo? Which was amazing. And then yeah, going across to Zanzibar, it's just beautiful, like stunning oceans. And I think probably the best thing that we did out there was you can do a few different like day trips, and one of them was like snorkeling out in some of the reefs. So they drive you out in the boats, these reefs, and you're snorkeling. And I just remember someone suddenly shouting, "Dolphins, dolphins!" And everyone like rushing back to the boats, and then they would try and drive the boats up to catch up with them, and then they go, "Go, jump back out," so that you could swim along with the dolphins. So we ended up swimming alongside this pod of like 6 wild dolphins, which is just an amazing experience. Yeah, so I would definitely recommend taking the opportunity while you're there to do those, because
sounds like you hit the absolute jackpot. Safari and then dolphins in Zanzibar. Like, yeah. You're the luckiest person to go with. Can you go back again? So I think I could all experience it.
Although I was, because there was lots of drinking on the holiday as well, so I was quite hungover. And while we were getting really excited to swim with these dolphins, I swallowed a lot of salty seawater. So we got the amazing experience to swim with the dolphins. And then as soon as I got back in the boat, I was like, no, and threw up over the side. So pros and cons.
Pros and cons, definitely.
Yeah.
Amazing. Vicky, did you go on a French travel as well? Or?
Yeah, so I did do it was slightly different when I did mine. I did do a safari still, but my like beach package was slightly different. But I do highly recommend, if you can go on a safari, do it. Like, I know you can go to safari parks in the UK, but they are nothing. Like, go on a safari if you can. You would never regret it. We were sleeping like in the national park, and I remember the guys being like, yeah, so if you hear anything in the night, don't worry, it's just elephants passing through, just stay in your tent. And I love elephants, so I was like, well, I want to sleep by the window of the tent because I want to get woken up by an elephant. Nothing woke anybody up. We woke up in the morning and elephants had passed by, so I was really annoyed. But yeah, definitely do a safari if you can. And I don't know, I'm assuming you probably can in Zanzibar. If you can get a massage, do it. I remember we went and got a full body massage where we were staying, and it was the best thing in the entire world. Like, I've never felt anything as incredible. It was on the beach, so it was even better. You've just done such an incredible, tough climb, and then you just fully relaxing on your holiday, and your body will really thank you for it. So yeah, if you can, definitely get a massage.
Yeah, no, I definitely second that. I did that when I was there as well, and it definitely helps after the exert on the mountain. So yeah, perfect way to finish. So final thoughts then. So now you've had a chance to obviously reflect back. But in this sort of call itself, you had a chance to sort of really relive some memories. But how do you sort of look back on the experience as a whole? If I go to you first, Sarah.
Oh, I thought I hadn't unmuted myself. Oh god, it's hard to really put it into words, but I would just say I just absolutely loved it. And when you said, did you find anything hard? I was like, I can't think of anything, but I know I must have. I think you just look back at it just with these like just this like amazement that you did it. And since then it's made me do more like outdoor challenges. I just kind of absolutely fell in love from that point onwards. I even fell in love with doing like hikes at night, because I just thought the summer night was really hard and really cold, but also like just such an amazing challenge and adventure. I feel like I'm always going to be chasing to see that sunrise again. And I think one thing that really sticks out is that all groups like won't like, you know, not talk for like a few years, but you'll always be able to get in touch with your group again. Like you always have that bond from having that experience, and I think that's the kind of the magic of it.
Definitely. And Vicky?
I would do the climb again in a heartbeat if I could. As soon as we'd got down and like we were chilling in the resort afterwards, the girls were saying like, oh, I love that, but like I'm kind of glad it's over, like I'm so tired now. And I was like, I could go back again. Like it was the best experience. I couldn't believe how much energy I'd got. But yeah, I got home, everyone was asking me how was it, like did you enjoy it, and I was like, yes, like you need to do it. Like if you ever want a challenge, you need to climb Kili. You won't regret it. And even to this day, it's been 6 years and I'm still like, I need to do that mountain again, because it's so incredible. You do so much, you meet so many incredible people. Like we had a few days where we were passing the same group throughout the day and over a couple of days, which was really nice, because then you'd be like, oh, how did you find yesterday? Like, and you just get chatting to complete strangers. So yeah, I would do it again in a heartbeat if I could.
So it sounds like some of you may be seeing Vicky on the mountain next summer, so just remember that face you may see her at the summit. But Dan?
I mean, I think for me, it just encompassed just an amazing period of my life as well. I sort of just finished uni, and I was just going to start a new job and move away, and having this amazing experience to like round off that year, like the lead up to the challenge and actually doing the challenge, just amazing. Nothing about it I wouldn't do again. Like it's just amazing.
Real. And final question from me. Do you feel like it's benefited you in your own sort of personal, professional development in terms of sort of how you've changed from it, or sort of career that you've gone into? And Sarah, we'll go for you first there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. My whole career so far has been guided by my experience with Dig Deep on the whole. I absolutely fell in love with challenge events. I thought like bringing people together for a good cause and them going through this amazing experience together, I just thought was, you know, a really great thing to be involved in. But also definitely get as involved with Dig Deep as you can, because they have this amazing approach to development in the communities that they work in. I think it's a really like inspiring attitude to work. So definitely get all the information that you can out of the Dig Deep team on what they do on the ground as well, because you're really raising money for like an amazing charity that their work is going to go a really long way. And that's definitely like stuck with me throughout my career, and always kind of been a bit of a sticking point for me.
And Dan, is there anything you'd like to sort of add to that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I can't like echo enough what Sarah just said about like Dig Deep being such an amazing development organisation. I just got so inspired and excited by the work that they do and how impactful it is, and the way that they work with the communities out in Kenya is amazing. So I did some development economics at university for my undergraduate, so I was interested in that area anyway. But then I think that experience just really put things into perspective for me. So I worked for a different charity in London for the year after my challenge, but after thinking about it, I decided that I actually want to change, and so I'm now back at university doing a master's in international development management, all because it just excites me so much after doing the challenge and being inspired by Dig Deep, really. So yeah, I mean, it's very much set me on that path, which I'm eternally grateful to Dig Deep for, really. So yeah, it will definitely impact you in interesting ways.
And we're super fortunate to sort of have you guys still involved in supporting the charity as well. So yeah, the feeling's mutual for sure. Harriet, has there been any other questions that have popped in at all?
A couple of questions, yes. So do any of you have any key tips for training for the climb? Is there anything you did in particular that helped you prepare? So Olivia's asked that. Anyone?
I can answer. I think generally just regularly doing a little bit of cardio to get your fitness. Your fitness doesn't need to be at, you know, a really extreme kind of level. I think just generally making sure that you're doing a bit of cardio each week, going out for on a couple of weekends on some like multi-day hikes to get your body used to kind of doing one day and then another day afterwards as well, I think really helped people. And then you can practice using your poles as well so that you're used to them. I think, yeah, you definitely don't need to go overboard, but just get your body used to cardio and like being on your feet will really help a lot. But I think the main thing on the mountain isn't your fitness, it's kind of like dealing with any like symptoms of the altitude, and it's all in your head really, I think, ultimately, isn't it? So kind of preparing yourself for that. Yeah, I think that's what I advise people.
No, that's great. That's exactly what I'd go with. I think like my thing was like just building up stamina and being able to walk for long distances and doing it all with a rucksack on my back, because I wasn't used to that either. So getting strong shoulders. Vicky, did you have any training tips?
I was just going to add, like, definitely do walks with a backpack on, add a bit of weight in there, because especially if you're not used to walking with a backpack, just genuinely day-to-day life, like it can be a massive strain on your shoulders. So definitely when you are doing practice walks, get a rucksack on, get a couple of litres of water in there, so you're used to that weight on your shoulders, so that when it comes to it, it's not a big shock. I ended up with like a knot in my shoulder because I'd not done enough training with a heavy backpack on. So definitely do that. And something that's a little bit more out of the box, I recommend doing like breathing exercises. I was at uni doing dance at the time, and we were really focusing on our breathing, and I think that really helped me, especially on days where the air is a bit thinner, so you are trying to catch your breath a bit, and being able to just slow down and take your breath without panicking. I think that's definitely useful, especially like on a night. It can help you sleep better as well. I know it's a little bit outside the box though.
No, I think that's perfect. I think it ties in with what Sarah was saying about having that, like those, I guess, mental coping mechanisms as well as like the physical thing, and managing your breathing is definitely one of them. So if you are panicking slightly, being able to get that under control, because then the other symptoms, kind of the headaches and stuff, may go with it as well. So no, that's perfect. And then one last question that we have, which is a nice one to round up on, I think. So Freya wanted to know if there's anything unexpected or surprising that happened whilst you were on the challenge. So does anyone have anything unexpected or surprising that happened to them whilst on the mountain?
I guess the altitude is always a bit of a surprise. I remember on summit night, probably like combined with exhaustion as well, I think it was still a bit dark. I can't remember what time it was, but I just kind of kept forgetting like where I was, and like everything was going a bit strange. And then our group leader at the time, Sam Morley, he was like, why don't you just do some times tables in your head? And I was like, okay. And then I just remember like walking up and doing my times tables just to like give my mind something to focus on. And I really wasn't expecting to have to do that on Kilimanjaro.
No, I think I'm completely with you on that. On that summit night walk, I remember thinking I was still asleep and this was like a dream. I remember someone being like, you need some sugar. And I was like, okay, can you give me something? Because I'm so cold, I don't want to take my gloves off. And I just remember one of my team placing like a really, really cold after eight in my mouth, because that's what they had. And I remember being like, this can't be real. Like, this can't be what's actually happening. But it was. We made it to the summit. But I think it's a really surreal time. Simon, did anything unexpected or surprising happen to you while you were on Kili?
I'm going to add a real, I know you're pitching for, but I'm going to add a completely rogue one in there, because every year somebody will go to the toilet and will have their phone in their pocket, and their phone will fall out and it will go in the latrine. It happened on my climb. So honestly, if you go into the toilet, make sure you've got zip pockets and your phone is zipped up, because you do not want your phone falling into the tree. So I'm sure it's happened on every year that we've had a climb. So just be careful, is what I say.
Amazing. Dan or Vicky, anything else unexpected on the mountain, or did you have relatively like sane climbs? No? Vicky?
I think I had a relatively sane climb, to be fair, but I think it didn't happen to me. But going to be a bit gruesome here. A few people had unexpected trips to the toilet on the side of the mountain, which took them by surprise, because altitude kind of affects your body in different ways. So yeah, I think definitely be prepared to do a Wilderboo.
Yeah, I mean, everyone gets so comfortable about their toilet habits as well as soon as you're on the mountain. Like, I think that's one of the things I was wary of before I went. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to talk to strangers about my bowels, and I'm going to be really uncomfortable. And then, like, 3 hours in, I was talking to someone I never met before about if they'd been to the loo. And then
everyone was talking about it.
Yeah, no, very, very comfortable. Okay, I think that is all.
I did have to do a bit of a wild last time.
No, you go, Dan, please.
Just an embarrassing story about a wild poo, but it was just on the summit. Definitely, it was that unexpected. I was like, no, I should be fine before I left. And then, it was halfway up in the dark and it was just starting to get light. And I was like, oh, no, I definitely need to. And on summit night, it's just rocks. There's not a lot of cover. Yeah. It's just trying to huddle down in the dark and get it done and move on and hope everyone moves past quickly. Be prepared.
You can see, as I mentioned about the oversharing at the beginning, they never leaves you when you come back. So we just continue.
I was going to say, it's not a dig deep event unless it deteriorates into talking
exactly.
About
We're in the toilet industry, so it's fine.
It's fine. It's to be expected. Okay, I think that rounds us off quite nicely. I mean, if anyone does have any other questions for Vicky, Dan, or Sarah, feel free to send them through to either myself or Simon, or post them in the event page on Facebook, and I'm sure the guys wouldn't mind answering you that way. But thank you so much to the three of you for coming back. It's been really nice to chat about the challenge and reminisce about your memories and everything like that. And obviously we're really, really pleased that you'll look back on it so fondly, and obviously advise everyone else to do it. So I think it's been a really nice opportunity for the guys waiting to go on their challenge to hear just what they have in store for them, wild poos and all. So yeah, thank you so much, and thank you everyone for coming along. It's been really nice to see you all here and for all of your questions. Any final comments, Simon, or are you good?
Just roll on 2022. I want to get there now. It's got me all excited. So we just got to wait till August, guys. Hang in there. We'll get there.
Brilliant, amazing. Thank you, everyone.